Hello and welcome back to Scale Wall Machines, and a new package has arrived. This arrived today from a new company I'd never heard of before, and I think inside there are some exciting products. Let's open it up and have a look. You can see the name of the company. So this is from Liang Model. Now I noticed there were some really interesting products on their Facebook page and on their website. And so I approached them and asked if I could review them for you. I'm very aware that the European market may not be familiar with some of these products. I don't know about you, but I personally always enjoy discovering new brands and new products. And in this case, you'll see new solutions to your modelling needs. Right, let's have a look at these. These are airbrush stencils. I was really interested in these. Now, these are products you may well be used to, but I've actually never used any of these, and I'm really keen to use them on a project I'm working on, and indeed several projects. I'm really grateful to them because they've sent me a whole bunch beyond what I was interested in and asked for. So we've got Weathering Airbrush Stencils 001, Liang 001, Streaking and Wet. That's going to be really good fun to use. Then we've got Mud and Splatter, in effect, splashes and mud effects, hand prints and shoe prints, blood splashes. Then you've got the sort of surface effects, mottling, slightly different version. All the references are there. I'll put them up on screen as well. Paint crack, chipping effects, and tire marks. This is a model work holder for figure painting. If you follow the channel, you know that I enjoy painting busts, so that caught my eye. So we got some nuts and bolts, O442D. Got some more nuts and bolts, 442C, that's 442A and B. They've obviously been put in the same pack for mailing. Okay, this is a surface sander, reference 233, 3D printed, bow and arrow type approach to sanding around complex shapes and contours. That's more a tool. We've got this a brick engraver or graver, they call it, tool O227. These sorts of tools have existed for a while. This is a Zimmerit tool for applying the characteristic anti-magnetic mine paste, and the more noticeable waffle style seen on various types of vehicle like Stux is there. Then we move on to diorama accessories, and the following samples were sent. So they call them model well lid, but they're essentially manhole covers. Have a more detailed look at those. Civilian supplies, these are sort of shopping items and everyday items, bottles and paper towels and so on. Model storage batteries, different types of batteries for your vehicles and so on. Beer, soda, bottle crates from World War II. And then finally, to round everything off, we've got a mini bar and freezer, so essentially an ice box. Alright, let's start off with the diorama accessories. I'm just going to open everything up and lay it all out so you get a good look. Let's start off with the manhole covers, or model well lids as they call it. You can see they're all packed in tight, but detail looks really promising. Now I'm just going to cut some out. Take a look at that. This is the modern civilian supplies, and you can see in this case there's no cage, which makes removing them a lot easier. And you also get a bunch of transfers to enable you to make a variety of common household items and automotive items and bottles. You can see the items there. The printing looks pretty decent. Some lines and striations, but they should be covered up quite nicely by a primer filler, I'd say. And there you can see what you get in the set. So you get a couple of simple bottles, a couple of oil type plastic bottles, some household kitchen paper, some cans, fuel can, and so on. When they're all painted up and decorated, that's what they'll look like, but that will definitely be useful for dioramas. This is the model storage battery. 16 of these, very useful for any kind of diorama or indeed vehicle. Again, you get some transfers for 12 volt batteries, battery logos, etc. Always very useful. This time they're in a different colour. Now these look really nicely printed. These are different from the previous one. If you take a close look, much cleaner printing on that particular reference. That implies there's two different techniques or two different manufacturers involved. Amazing detail to see all the straps on the batteries, and the handles are integral and printed. That is just amazing quality. Look at that little vent there. I won't lie, it's a bit of a relief not to have so much of the 3D printed cage around it, so these will be a lot easier to remove. That's a nice handy accessory. Can definitely see I'll be using those. Okay, now these will probably be printed on a cage. Let's see. Oh no, they're not. Again, a different colour. A nice, pleasing and very realistic wood texture. Again, this appears to be a different material. Exquisitely printed, as you'd expect. The bottles, meanwhile, are printed in a transparent material, and they look really cool and nicely detailed, along with a bunch of appropriate markings there. Water slide decals, transfers. That's going to be really good fun. You get a sense of what they look like, of course, in the box art. You can clearly leave the bottles either transparent or paint them appropriately. I'm moving on to the mini bar and freezer. There you see what it looks like painted. This is reference 0414 1/35 scale. Again, this is the more pinkish printing and is again very good quality. Looks really nicely done, just with the generic word ice on it. That looks great. Very useful for modern vehicles, dioramas, etc. I'll just fire off some close-ups for you. Very impressive, very useful. Doesn't come with any of the cans, so you need to get the cans, but in this case we've got some of them in that reference. Take a closer look at these then. Yeah, those are really, really well rendered. Virtually no printing marks at all. When I look at these 3D printed products, I find it's really helpful to prime them and paint them and finish them so you get an idea of what they actually look like. I primed them all in AK Interactive's Surface Primer in black, AK178. Then I also used Ammo by MIG surface primers, their Rust Primer, and their Trax Primer, MIG 2007. Just to paint all the manhole covers. I also used a little bit of Vallejo Burnt Umber, which is their reference 70941. I brush painted them. You could have sprayed them. In the end I ended up speeding up drying by actually blowing some air over them with my air blower. And then I picked out the beer and soda crate. For that I used Panzer Aces by Vallejo, their dark mud reference. Meanwhile, for the freezer box I used Vallejo's Intense Blue, reference 70925. I then dipped into some of my life colour paints, and to paint the spray bottle I used their Gloss Orange. I really love life colour paints, but their gloss colours have very poor coverage. This was the case with the spray bottle. I had to go over that later, as you'll see. I used a bit of white for the paper towels, and then I applied some colour washes to the manhole covers just to add a bit of variety. And here you can see how it all looks painted. I mounted it on a piece of paper, and this is the result. Here everything's painted but not really weathered, but they are holding up quite nicely and look like really good accessories. Now, an essential step in my painting process, I love the life colour liquid pigments, and I use them to impart shadows and dust washes. And then over to the decals. It's worth noting they're all printed on one solid piece of decal film, so you do need to cut them all out. The printing wasn't too bad. It was especially good on the Bounty paper towel label. Wasn't quite so good or detailed on the, I presume that's Mr. Muscle bottle. Other products do exist. And the references for the batteries were also realistic and helpful, and a good inclusion in the set. As you can see, I applied them using Micro Set and Micro Sol. It's certainly good having all those included, so you don't have to bother trying to paint them. The only one that had a little bit of visible decal film was the beer and soda water. I sprayed them in a bit of satin varnish and then matte varnish, and then I placed them just in a GMC model I had kicking around, so you can see what they look like. They certainly do look good and I'd highly recommend them. They add a really nice touch of realism to your creations. Next time I'll be using the tools supplied by Yang, including the airbrush stencils, the brick engraver and the Zimmerit tool in both 1/35th scale and 1/72nd scale. I'll also use the work holder for a bit of figure painting. I hope you enjoyed it, thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye.
Subscribe for our latest videos.